Hi, and welcome to my show. Today I will be making sugo. The ingredients consist of shallots, garlic, tomato paste, olive oil, and chicken. To make it more traditional, you can use beef instead of chicken, red onions instead of shallots, and fresh tomatoes instead of tomato paste. Right now, I'm going to go back and throw the chicken into the fridge so I can keep it cool, and then I'm going to go grab a bag for all the scraps for my vegetables. Unfortunately, the garlic that I had wasn't very fresh, so you won't see me add any, but this recipe does typically call for 3 to 4 cloves of garlic finely minced. You can add more or less depending on your taste, and I will be adding 3 shallots for this amount. This recipe originates from when the Italians and the Ethiopians were in close proximity to each other due to geopolitical reasons. So let's go ahead and do a deep dive in what exactly those means and into those relationships. In 1895, a war raged between Ethiopians and the Italians, which is known as the First Italo-Ethiopian War. This war was due to a breach in a treaty between Italians and Ethiopians. King Menelik II and Count Petra Anatoly signed the treaty. Italy had thought that the treaty would mean that Ethiopia would become Italian territory for their protection, while Ethiopia thought it was meant for the international diplomacy through Italy. Once they realized there was a communication error, Italy decided to forcefully impose a protectorate over Ethiopia, which launched the First Italo-Ethiopian War. Alright, so the next step is you're going to want to go ahead and add olive oil to the pan. You're going to want to keep it very low, and you're going to want to cook the shallots down low and slow. And go ahead, add a little bit of salt in there to help draw out some of that moisture. And then the next step is we're going to mince up the chicken very fine. Once the war broke out, Italy told the rest of Europe that Ethiopia was an enemy for going against their treaty. At this time, the only European ally of Ethiopia was Russia. Once Russia heard that the treaty had been broken, they sent arms and ammunition to Ethiopia. On the mission back from Russia, they also sent Alexander Boltevich. He was a Russian writer who went to Ethiopia to serve as a volunteer with the Emperor Menelik. In his writings, he also made the point that Ethiopians converted to Christianity before any European nation ever did and are just as deeply religious as the Russians are. So this is how it should look, a nice deep dark golden brown. So you're going to go ahead and then turn the heat even a little lower. We're going to go ahead and add all of our seasonings and that tomato paste, and it should look like this, a deep bold red. Then we're going to go ahead and add any other seasonings we need, and then we're just going to go ahead and add that chicken right in, and then keep using the spatula to grind it up even more, and then you're going to go ahead and give it a taste. Ethiopia needed help, so Emperor Menelik asked friends for help, but they declined. Once Menelik heard this, he asked leaders from every region in Ethiopia to join the army, which ended up with an army of over 100,000 men. Then they marched to the north to face the Italians. Once you've tasted it and it doesn't need any more seasoning, you're going to go ahead and add a base, so either water, chicken stock, chicken broth, or any kind of other liquid base that you would like. Then you're going to go ahead and let that simmer down for about 10 to 15 minutes, or until that most of the water has evaporated, and you're going to have to add extra seasoning to this. At this time, tensions were high in Ethiopia. Italy was furthering their attack into Ethiopian territory. 20,000 Eritreans and Tigrayans joined the Italian forces and prepared to fight. This fight resulted in killing Major Tozali and his men with only 400 survivors. They then retreated to Fort McKell. So this is what it should look like. You should be able to pull it apart, and then just a little bit of the liquid comes off from the sides. And then you're going to go ahead and transfer all the pasta over and combine. Once the 100,000 men surrounded the survivors, Emperor Menelik allowed them to leave peacefully. Menelik allowed them to take their weapons and gave them mules to take their belongings with them. The final battle that determined the winner of this war was the Battle of Adwa. The Italian army comprised approximately 17,700 men, while the Ethiopian army consisted of 73,000 to an estimated 120,000. The Italian leader at the time severely underestimated the Ethiopians. Menelik assured that his men were not only better equipped to fight, but also had superior knowledge of how to do so.
Do you want to try some?
Thought you never asked.
Awesome. It's a little spicy. Can you handle it? Here, just hold on. I'll give
Yeah,
you...
I can handle spicy.
Okay, awesome.
They met and fought. By 12 p.m., the Italians were in a full retreat, and when the Italians were leaving, they left behind artillery and firearms.
Let's see. Do you like it?
Yeah, not bad.
Ah, thank you.
After Italy left, Ethiopia made one more attempt at peace. They wanted Italy to publicly renounce their protectorate over Ethiopia. Italy arrogantly declined, then Ethiopia took all offers off the table and left. Menelik secured the Treaty of Addis Ababa in October, and even in the end, when we were counted as barbarians and lesser beings, we still decided to show them peace and empathy, and we gained knowledge from this war, not about how to fight, but how to live.